Hi, I'm Aprajita Jain and welcome to the next episode of Art Insider. Today we speak about performance art. What is performance art? Well, it sort of straddles different traditional mediums of music, theatre, dance and sculpture. It is one of the most fertile grounds for creative expression and exploration within contemporary art. We speak to Pooja Sood, director coach, who has been supporting performance art since the very 1990s.
Hi, welcome to Art Insider. Glad to have you back. And I'm here with Pooja Sood, who's the director of the Coj International Artists Association. And I wanted to talk to Pooja about performance art because Coj has been sort of supporting and fostering performance art since its very beginning foundations in '97. Just for our viewers, how would you define performance art?
I don't know whether I define performance art, I define live art. Work that artists do live, sometimes with their body, sometimes not. Sometimes that they orchestrate others to do work.
So you're saying you don't like the term performance art?
No, I'm saying I don't know how to define performance art because it's not performing arts. It's not
is
dance
in a
and
sense.
music all the time. It is. But I think it took a while for us to understand that it was distinct from dance and theatre and the performing arts that are traditionally known as the performing
Well, but
arts.
just to be the devil's advocate, I mean, it does borrow a lot from those
Not only does it
disciplines.
borrow, it actually sits very uneasily at the edge of something that is the performing arts and sometimes the visual arts and somewhere in between. In fact, the first performance art festival that we did, which was Coj Live 8 in 2008.
Coj Live 8.
Yeah, it was, we had about 25 performances, half Indian, half international, which we had commissioned. And we did them over 6 days across Delhi in different galleries, one a night with a big party. And that, I think it came after 3 years of doing small residencies around performance, where we began with understanding that performance art was really about the body, somehow that, the body spoke, and that was the site of art, and then went on to understand that the audience was as much a performer within a milieu, a certain setting. And I think the Coj Live 8 kind of opened that up to us in a big way, because you had artists who were orchestrating things.
Orchestrating the audience.
Orchestrating the audience, really, to do stuff in a sometimes subtle and sometimes not so subtle way. Of course, there were many artists who were really focused on the body, something that was about language or lack of. And then in Coj 2012, as you know, when Subodh did that project with the Spirit Eaters, it was really choreographing it, as did Vivan Sundaram with a whole, when he looked at fashion. So I think performance art is got, and now sound artists, when they perform live, that is performance too. So it is all at the edge, but it crosses many boundaries.
Well, that makes sense because while we're looking at the other mediums in our show, we're looking at painting and especially painting and drawing, which are still very much there, but have changed very much.
Yeah.
I mean, especially an artist that we talked to, Rohini Devashar, has taken drawing into a performative level and an architectural space, and Bharti Kher with her bindis has taken painting into sort of the space of the found object.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense that performance art would become more popular now with artists because, again, it's in this hinge point.
Yeah.
It seems a lot of artists are attracted to these.
Also, don't forget, performance art, if it's the body is the site, in a country like ours where material is expensive, I mean, the fact that I would imagine that more artists would use their body to explain stuff.
Yes, other than the fact that it is ephemeral and it doesn't give you an object to sell or even to ship to a show in another city.
Well, I'm not sure, because the photograph today of a performance, like people like Nikhil, who did one of his earliest performances with us, actually. His photographs sell well.
Yes, that's
and
true.
his videos sell well.
And Sonia Khurana with
Sonia
her
Khurana
videos
with her
too.
photographs and videos too.
Yeah.
So I think, well, it's actually inverted because a lot of performance started with performing for the camera. So if you think of Sonia Khurana, you think of Surekha, you think of Eve Pushpamala, of course, it's all performative.
Very consciously thinking of the residue, the recording of the performance as the art object.
Well, it started with that till it became live. Then they stepped out of it. And now it's kind of, the documentation of the live has become the artwork. So it's a very strange thing. It started with artwork.
Peter pays a visit to the Heritage Hotel art space established in Goa, both as a residency as well as laboratory for the development of performance arts. Let's have a look at what he discovers there.
Hello.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Nicola. How are you?
Hey, good to
And you
see
must be
you.
Romy. Romy Luster,
I
right?
am Roma.
Great. So I found it.
Yeah.
This is it?
It's an easy find.
So this is the Heritage Hotel.
Art spaces.
Art space is fantastic. So Roma finds the place, and then Nikhil decides to become his partner in crime. And what was the next step?
Move in, actually. We literally had to bring our boxes of art supplies, costumes, makeup, wigs, musical instruments, drum kits.
And some kitchen goods.
And some kitchen goods, stocked the kitchen up with coffee.
So now it's going to function as both a residency space and an actual exhibition space?
It's not an exhibition space as much as it's a residency space. What we do once in 6 weeks is open our doors to the public and share our ideas, experiments, collaborations without any emphasis or pressure on finished pieces or realized pieces. They can be in the middle of people's processes, in the middle of tests and ideas, so that there is a little bit more freedom and fluidity with the way in which we interact with an audience here.
And so the three artists that you just had here, one was from New York and one was from Ljubljana.
Yes, from
and
Slovenia.
One is from
One is from Bangladesh.
So is that kind of what you're hoping to keep this sort of international mix going on?
Yes.
Very important point. And
yeah,
especially,
yeah.
I mean, especially today, I mean, nothing. It's just we have to be like more and more open to the others, like the world in general.
Yeah.
Art is a very nice way to crystallize, you know, to kind of like fix the idea of this world that is mixed, you know, like mixed culture, mixed people, mixed.
Yeah.
We had like shows like inviting shamans from the Amazon, you know, and that's interesting because as performer, okay, there's like these ceremony things going on. Then for us, it's as well a way to look at the costume,
You
the
actually
colors,
have shamans
the-
from the Amazon.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Where's the funding come from? How do they get here?
So
Who buys these
how
shamans the plane ticket?
Well, this is great about Goa, right? Because it's a place where people go through a lot.
So
It's also a hub for all sorts of alternatives, ways of thinking. So it's like alternative ways of healing, alternative ways of living in terms of what people eat here, and that body consciousness is.
So this is perhaps more of an institute for creative thinking rather than
with an emphasis on, I feel performance is very much a part of that thread
definitely.
that runs through a lot of the work that people bring here. And I feel we fill a certain gap because, you know, performance is, it doesn't really have a fixed place, and I feel that we can create a performance studio.
It's time for a break, but when we return, we speak to two artists exploring the radical fringes of performance art. Welcome back to Art Insider. We visit Heritage Hotel Art Space to speak to two artists, one from New York and one from Bangladesh, to understand what motivates them.
Hi, I'm here with Atish Saha, who's an artist from Dhaka in Bangladesh, who is here at the Heritage Hotel in a residency and just did a performance last night at Sunaparanta. That performance actually started quite a bit before you got to Sunaparanta, right?
Yeah, it started like 1 hour earlier.
1 hour.
1 hour earlier than like the place.
And so you put on the costume in the middle of Panjim or something?
No, it's you know, there's a river. In the Panjim there's a river. So there's a beautiful bridge. So like the other side of the bridge, I started there. So I kind of like half got dressed in the car. The pant I put on in the car, and then I came
Before
out.
the performance?
Like
That was part of the performance?
the part of the performance. So just like when I came out of the car, it just almost started.
And so then you walked 2 kilometers
Yeah.
to get to Sunaparanta?
More than 2 kilometers.
And how long did that take?
It's like almost 1 hour.
But you were in character. That was
Yeah.
very much thinking about the art piece you were making. That was part of it.
Yeah, like getting into the persona.
Okay, I only saw you when you got to Sunaparanta itself, and then you had set up a swing and a ladder, and there was eggs.
Yeah.
Why did you put those things together?
So I want to put it in that way. It's like so the theme was the lab.
Lab.
The theme was lab, and then it's called Edition Lab, and then so egg has like a significant like metaphor as lab
That's
always.
true. Reproduction.
Reproduction. It's not only reproduction. The like the the like. I would more say the way the yolk looks, and then it has like some kind of like elasticity in it. Like you could like do the egg like this, and then egg will like go in the air and then like fly a bit, and then
And what does that have to do with love? The
Yeah.
egg is elastic and it can fly away,
Yeah.
like love.
like love. And it is like little bit of like watery, and then like you can like play with it. And it's also like one of the oldest way to paint, like there
Egg
like,
tempera.
Yeah, egg tempera, Goya, yeah.
And then, so is this like an aesthetic practice or something that has some religious significance?
I don't know how much should I like talk about it.
But if it's there, you should talk.
But like coming from a country like Bangladesh, like it doesn't matter how much I want to run away from religion, you can always read any artwork, like any kind of artwork, there is always a religious connotation.
We are here with the infamous Mr. Himanshu Kumar Suri, who is artist in residence these weeks, months, I'm not sure how long.
2 months.
2 months, and is this the end of your sojourn or your...
No, I just begun.
just begun?
5 days ago.
But you did a performance just last night at
Yeah.
the Sunaparanta Art Center, and I heard one the night before at the Goa Lit Fest.
Arts and Literature Festival.
Two different works.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about them?
So then one is like music and one is like talking.
So at literature you did the music, and then at sensorium you did
The
talking.
words, yeah.
But all of your work kind of oscillates and
I'm
back and
very
forth,
sensitive to sound and language. Yeah.
and it throbs between music and poetry and rapping and...
The colors
say
and
that?
spices. My mother, a heroine. Myself, I like heroin. This life is so harrowing. My son, you are an addict. Where did you find these drugs? My son, what is this drugs? Why do the drugs? Mom, they're around. My son, you should stop doing drugs. You're more than an addict. This tragic habit of yours should die, not you. Mom, it's really easy to do drugs. My son, you shouldn't do drugs.
Are you doing more performances while you're in Goa?
If I'm around Nick Hill, I'll do what he does.
Every day is a performance when you're around Nick Hill.
Well, then this question of like stage fright versus personal fright, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll do some performances.
Do you have personal fright as well as stage fright? Or probably no stage fright and all personal fright? Do you like to cook?
Yeah.
So that could be a big part of the performance.
So I like
here
I
at-
like
at
prontas
Heritage.
and pao, and I'm working on
That's
a restaurant now, and it's like the vegetarian is Indian and the non-veg is from the world, and the prontas are from my mom, and like yeah. So yeah, you're right.
Sounds good.
Communication, taking, giving. I yell these words because they were taken from my mother and they were given to me as a man. And these words weigh heavy. My mother weighs heavy, addiction weighs heavy. water in a levee, riding in a Chevy, riding in a Ford, on my own accord. Listen to a chord, make your own accord. Riding in a Ford, riding in a Chevy, water through a levee. These words are so heavy. These words are so heavy and they're thrusted upon me, and then I thrust them back on people, and I should thrust less.
So last night in your performance, you matched up three different texts. Do you remember what those were?
Yeah, I do remember everything. So one was Rilke, Letters to a Young Poet. The second was an introductory guide to Narcotics Anonymous. And the third was a new book that Arun Kopkar has written about Guru Dutt.
The films of Guru Dutt, or himself, more his biography.
It's about him in 3 stages of Kagaz Ke Phool, Pyasa, or fir Mr. and Mrs. 55. But these days I'm more obsessed with Arpar because I'm writing a book about taxi driving.
To wrap things up, Peter visited Vivan Sundaram at his studio in New Delhi. He recently premiered an ambitious large-scale work that combined art history with kinetic sculpture, music, as well as acrobatics that left all the audiences both perplexed as well as enthralled.
Hi, today we're visiting the studio of the very well-known artist Vivan Sundaram to talk to him about performance art and his use of performance art, which he's explored in a number of different projects over the past few years. I'm standing with one of his so-called sculptures from his most recent project, which was called 409 Ramkinkar Beige. And this was looking at the work of the foremost modernist sculptor Ramkinkar Beige, who came out of Shanti Niketan. And what Vivan did with this project was use Beige's sculpture as a sort of springboard and a launching point to create a theatrical presentation and performances around them. So what I'm here with is an actual recreation in fiberglass of a beige sculpture entitled Speed from approximately about 1955. And what Sundaram has done is remake it and now put it on this rickshaw, so it becomes a mobile sculpture. And in many ways the sculpture is only completed by the performer, which he actually did in the performance. People rode the bicycles around the museum space and in and out of the theatrical tableaus that were set up. So in a certain way, the artist wasn't doing the performance, the artist becomes the director and using sculpture as performative objects. Here's another piece which Vivan sort of recreated his newer version of a Ramkinkar Beige sculpture. When was this one from, Vivan?
It's about 55, that's a little earlier, 54.
And this was two running female figures.
Well, these were two tribals who now become part of the proletariat. And he then had them both moving in front, but Nandalal Bose came and proposed that he turns one around. And so his great interest in the word speed also of movement. And so then I used motor car parts to say that that's the technology of the 20th century that is about movement.
What was your reason for using beige as the springboard for this larger theatrical performance?
Well, I've been interested in history, in the historical figure, and as a very dynamic modernist who explored very many different forms, very many different modernist forms. And I'm very interested in artists who keep on changing and shifting their way of representing, as well as his interest both in abstraction, as you see there, and very much as a kind of political figure of the working class. And I collaborated with Anuradha Kapoor and Shantanu Bose, and it became finally a 2-hour production.
So a 2-hour production where the viewer, the audience is sort of
Is
meandering
moving
things
through
up.
and different configurations in each
So
space.
decentralizing
And
the
yeah, and then
standard idea.
finally they go and sit down in the open air theatre and watch it as a 50-minute play.
And there's
But
music also.
Oh, there's music, there's text, there's very dramatic lighting.
Even
Yeah.
some acrobatics.
Yeah, some acrobatics as well, yes.
So really bringing in the full scope of what performance can be. Because I think so often we think of performance art as a single figure, a single solitary performer in the white box of the gallery space. But you opened
Yeah,
it
well,
up
I
much
think
more.
this is not exactly performance art, it is a crossover into theatre and into promenade theatre. So it also allows very different forms of display, and very much the set now becomes a statement about what is the content. The set, which was a backdrop always, now gets foregrounded and actually proposes the narrative. So many of his paintings become sets, and in the Twin Art Gallery, 12 sets have simultaneously being performed with 34 actors. So the audience walks through like in a mela, like in a fairground.
So that's it for today's episode. We hope you understood performance art a little bit more. Do join us next week for another episode.